Now we're going to work on how to write the equation of a line when you're given kind of different information. So one thing that you will learn as we do more and more of these problems is if they give you information, they could give you a graph, they could give you, like for instance in this problem, they're giving you the slope and then a point that the line goes through. They could give you 2 points. No matter what information they give you, you're going to learn that you can always write the equation of a line as long as you find 2 pieces of information. And those main 2 pieces of information that you need is the slope of the line. So you're going to have to find that somehow. So if like they give you the graph, remember you can find the rise and the run, because slope is rise over run. And then you have to find a point that the line goes through. And if you have those 2 pieces of information, you can write the equation of the line. And so that's actually what I'm going to work with you on in this video is if they give you the slope of the line, or you're able to find the slope of the line, and they give you a point that the line goes through, how do you write the equation of the line? Okay, and there's 2 ways you can approach it. You can use slope-intercept form to be able to write the equation of the line, or you can use what's called point-slope form. And so I'm going to go through in this video both ways that you can do it. They do work a little differently, but either way you do it, you will end up at the end of the day with the equation of the line. Okay, so we're going to start with how do you use slope-intercept form to write the equation of the line. Okay, so if we're doing that, like I said, you need the slope and you need a point that it goes through, and then you'll be able to plug it in here to find the rest of your information. Okay, so remember, slope-intercept form, the m, or the number that's in front of the x, is your slope. And then remember, your b is actually your y-intercept. Now, if you think back to the other problems that we've done so far, in the other problems you were able to find this information directly. Notice in this problem, they give you the slope, but they don't tell you what the y-intercept is. And so whenever they give you the slope, but they don't give you the y-intercept, and they give you instead a point that the line goes through, what you're going to do is you're going to use these 2 pieces of information and you're going to plug it in this equation, and that's what I'm going to show you. And you're actually going to use that to find what the y-intercept is. Okay, so how do you do that? Well, notice they tell you the slope is 2. So we're going to write down that our slope is 2. And then they give you a point. They tell you that it goes through the point 5, 3. Okay, so how do you use this? Well, notice in this equation, your slope is going to go right there, but then how are you going to use this point? Well, remember, every point, the first number that you see is your x value, the second number is your y value. You are going to actually take that and plug it in for x and y in this equation, and then you're going to solve and find what the b is. Okay, so it's almost like you kind of just plug in what they give you, and then you find what you're missing. So like in this case, we're missing the y-intercept, so we have to use that information to find the y-intercept. So I'm going to have to plug in a number for my y. I'm going to plug in my number for my slope. And then that's being multiplied. I'm going to plug in my number for my x. And then the b is the part I'm looking for. So if I plug in, my y value is 3. My slope is 2. My x value is 5. So I'm going to solve this equation. Remember, you have to simplify on each side first, and we do the multiplication. So we've got 2 times 5. So we get 10 on this side, and then I'm just going to bring down my plus b. And then I'm going to bring down my 3, and then I have to solve. So to solve this, I have to get my 10 to the other side, so I'm going to subtract that to both sides. And then 3 minus 10 is negative 7. And then those cancel out. And so my b, which is my y-intercept, is negative 7. So now I have everything that I need to be able to write the equation of the line, because I know what my y-intercept is now. I know what my slope is. And so just like in the problems we did before, to be able to write the equation of my line, all I'm going to do is just go back in and plug in my slope and my y-intercept. So the equation of that line would be y equals, my slope was 2, so it would be 2x, and then my b was -7. So I just plug that in. So you go back, don't forget to go back and plug in your slope and your y-intercept. And then there's your equation. Okay, so that's using slope-intercept form. You plug in your x and y, you plug in your slope, and then you solve for your y-intercept, and then you go back and plug in your slope and y-intercept. Okay, now if you're doing point-slope form, it will work a little differently because it's a different equation. But to be able to plug it in this form, you have to have a slope and then a point that it goes through. That's why it's called point-slope form. Because if you have a point that your line goes through and you know the slope, you can just plug it in this equation, and that's what I'm going to show you to be able to write your equation of your line. Okay? So when you're looking at this equation, let's understand what's going on here. So you've got a y, but then you have like a y1. Then you have m, which is your slope, and then you have an x, and then you have minus an x1, all right? That right there, the x1 and the y1 are where you're plugging in your point and your slope. So you're going to find that if I was doing this problem and I was going to plug in my point and my slope, I'm going to actually copy down this, but I'm going to leave blanks for where I'm going to be plugging in my stuff. Okay, so notice everywhere that I'm going to be plugging in, like here I'm going to plug in my y value from my point, here I'm going to plug in my slope, and here I'm going to plug in my x value of my point. I left those blanks so I can just plug them in. Okay, so again, find out your slope, which our slope was 2. And then write down your point and label it so that you'll know what goes where. So this is my x and that's my y. And remember, you're plugging them in for in this problem, like I said, it's going to be a little differently or work a little differently. This problem you're plugging in for where you see the y1 and the x1. Okay, so you've got everything you need. Now you just need to put it where it goes. So I always think the y value goes with the y. So my 3 will go here, and notice I just copied it down, and then I'm plugging in. My slope would go here, so the 2 would go here, and then my x value goes with the x in the equation. So right here, my x value is 5, so I'm going to put a 5 there. All right, so that's the plugging in part. From here, you want to make it so that it's in slope-intercept form. So when you're doing this method, like if you're using point-slope form to write your equation of your line, you have to do a little work afterwards, okay? So once you plug it in, now we want to get it in slope-intercept form. So that, notice we have to get the y by itself. So I'm going to have to do a little simplifying. So right now I have y minus 3 on this side. On this side, the 2 is being multiplied by this, so I'm going to have to distribute my 2. So it would be 2 times x, which is 2x. And then 2 times -5, which is -10. Okay, and notice the y has to be by itself, so after I simplify, I'm going to have to move this -3 to the other side. So you do the opposite, so instead of subtracting 3, I'm going to add 3, and then I have to do that to both sides of my equal mark. And so -3 plus 3 is 0, and so the y is by itself. And then my 2x comes down, and then -10 plus 3 is -7. And notice these two are the same, and there's a reason for that, is because we were writing the equation of the line that had the slope of 2 and the 0.53. So we were doing the same problem, we were just going at it using 2 different methods. So it does not matter which method you choose. Either way you do it, it's going to give you the same equation. So you pick a method and then just get really good at it.